In this video, I'm going to show you how I format parts. This is something I've been asked a lot about, and I'm ready to show you. Okay, so why would you bother formatting parts? And in fact, if you asked a lot of other composers, they would say, don't! We have computers. Copying is dead. And those people are fools. So let me give you a little background on why you should format parts. So in order to do that, let's go back into Sibelius. Boop. All right, here we go. We're in Sibelius, and we're going to start by looking at the alto 1 part. Why don't we start with that? So if you click on a staff in Sibelius, then hit W on the keyboard. Boop. You're in the part. Okay, so this is how the part looks by default in Sibelius. Default with quotes around it. In the score, we had already set auto breaks to 4 bars per system. So that actually translates into the parts as well, which is actually a really good starting point. And as we're going through this, I'm going to give you some other ideas as to how to make them look pretty clean. But as a rule of thumb, you usually want rehearsal marks to be at the beginning of systems. So that's usually the first thing I do when I'm formatting parts. But just the other rule that you want to consider is the system breaks, meaning how many bars per line, should indicate the phrasing of the song. So if you're doing a song that has 4 or 8 bar phrases, you'll probably have 4 measures per system, or bars per line, or however you want to say it. So that if you end up with like the end of a chorus, maybe you've extended it by 1 or 2 bars, you'll have 6 bars on that line. And that makes it super, super clear to somebody that's sight reading your part that this phrase has been extended. And people that are counting rests, it makes it really easy for them to not get lost. In general, it's just much better to spend a little bit of extra time formatting your parts. So anyway, we're looking at the alto 1 part. I'm going to zoom in a bit. Let me see. By default, sometimes Sibelius makes these parts the wrong page size, but in this case it didn't. Their letter staff size is 7 in Sibelius. That's what it does by default. And I highly, highly, highly recommend, especially if you're going to print on 8.5 by 11 standard paper, that you do not change the staff size. Definitely do not make it smaller, ever. All right. Then what I do is I go through and I put all the rehearsal marks at the beginning of systems. And I know it creates some weird artifacts like that, but that's fine. We'll go back and fix it. So this is my first step. All right, so we're just doing it. In Sibelius, you click on the bar line and hit enter or return. And that does it. We kind of want double bars at the beginning of systems as well. Most double bars. So at the ends of systems. So anyway, so we've done that. The part still looks hideous, so we're not done. Okay, so now we want to take a look at what's going on musically in these sections. So obviously, this bar by itself doesn't make any sense. So it might make sense to, I don't know, put all of these in one system like that. That kind of looks better to me already. It might make more sense, actually, to do it like this. That might look a little bit better to me. At this point, we're just kind of making a judgment call based on how it looks. We might have to make a more specific judgment on this later. We're definitely going to want that to be at the end of a system. That crowds it a little bit right here. We can actually, there are fixes to that if we need to, but let's see what it looks like if we put the 2, 3, 4 bars at the end of this line. That's a little bit crowded as well. I might have preferred it the other way. So when you have this kind of thing, if you actually select that measure in Sibelius, there's in the appearance, you can do reset note spacing, and that'll spread out there. So that actually is okay. It's a little bit tight, but fine. Okay, next page. And actually, we've got a page break right on the solo break. That's pretty good. As a rule of thumb, your first page... Oh, why isn't the dedication showing up on our parts? It's right here. It's not on the part. How bizarre. Maybe I created it the wrong way. Let me see. Oh, text. Catalog information. Dedication for West Ranch High School Studio Jazz Band. Directed by Brian Leff. And now we've got like two weird ones. This was the faulty one, and this one is appearing in the parts. Okay, good. Okay, so in terms of number of systems per page, generally on a non-title page, we want a maximum of 10 systems, meaning 10 lines of music, and a minimum of 7. More than that, or fewer than that, and it looks weird, and more than that, and it's too compressed. By default, Sibelius kind of does this automatically. We've got 8 systems on this first page right now, which isn't entirely ideal, but we could probably put these 2 multi-rests on one line like that. And that actually looks okay. So that might be what we end up doing, even though that puts our rehearsal mark in the middle of the system. That's probably okay. Okay, so we've got our first and second ending and our third ending on different lines. Since it's a 2-bar thing, we can just squeeze them onto one line like that. 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. We're all good. 2 bass solos. This page turn is really easy. Sometimes our rehearsal marks force our system text to be in the wrong place, but if I move it up a little bit, then I can move this one to the side a little bit, and there. It's not going to print orange. It only displays in orange because Sibelius shows, if I've moved this from where it is by default, it shows as orange. If I move it on the score, then it'll be fine. It brought this to the next page. We're going to force this onto the next page. Page turns are exceedingly important. I don't know how else to put it. So it's a really easy page turn in the middle of this super long rest. And then, then we got 4 bars. This one looks a little crowded, but again, we can do our trick where we reset note spacing, and there we go. All better. In fact, what if we just do that to the whole thing? Boop. All right. Great. The alto gets a little bit high, but I think it's fine. But okay. So now we've got a 2-bar rest in letter K. 2-bar rest, then 3 bars afterwards, then 3 bars in the next system. So that's not ideal. We really want all 4 of these bars to be on the same system. So let's do that. It forced it onto the next page, but we'll deal with that in a second. But really now we've got 2 bars and then 2 bars here. Notice these 2 bars are kind of abnormally stretched out. This is something that Sibelius does by default. I'm not sure whether the other music notation programs do it, but the fix in Sibelius is you grab this bar line, and in the case of 2 and 2, you kind of want the 2 bars to take up the same space as the other 2 bars. The exception, of course, is if those small amount of measures are dense with like 16th notes or something like that. In that case, then you give them more space because it's important for legibility. All right. Then this last page, we've got 6 bars of 3/4. We'll just force that into one system. Then you've got 1 bar like this. There are 2 choices here. One of which is you can grab this invisible box on the end and then drag it over. That's actually just fine. But I think in this case, it makes more sense to just force it onto that system. And then reset those notes. Nope, that's fine. All right, good. All right, this part looks pretty good. So we'll get to a few other text things, but let me talk about page turns quickly. So if we're printing on 8.5 by 11 paper, generally musicians can easily, if their parts are printed well and taped, they can see 3 pages on their stand with no problem. So really, the first important page turn is at the end of the 3rd page. Unless, in this case, the first page turn works well and the second page turn works well. So they could easily, and then you notice at letter E, they don't even play the first time. It says second and third times on cue. This was supposed to say open solos, backgrounds, 3 times on cue. Something like that. We're going to put a space there. Okay. And we'll move this to the side a little bit. Okay. So anyway, this page turn's really easy. So they could have one page up and then open it to see these next 2 pages. I would probably put the page turn here. Oh, that's not enough systems. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that's not enough. So it might be fine just like this. Or let me see. We could put we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We could put the entire bass solo onto the 3rd page, like that, I guess. And then there we go. And then have the page turn there. And that actually looks pretty good to me. So that might be exactly how I have the alto 1 part. How am I doing on time? We are at 10 minutes. My goodness. Okay. So then I'm going to change the size of the title because it looks a little bit small to me. So let's make it by default, it's 25. So let's try 35. That might be a little bit too big. Let's try 30. That looks pretty good. Okay. So let me see. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's 7. So we're going to drag this down just a little bit. And that actually looks pretty darn good to me. I'm trying to see if there's we can drag this like that a little bit. Yeah, this part is looking pretty clean. At this point, I'd be looking for enharmonic issues. Because this is a commission for kids, I might get rid of this E sharp and make it an F natural, right? It's showing up orange because it's different than the score, but that's okay. Yeah, this looks really, really good. So, we've got a little bit of a collision down at the bottom, so we'll drag the copyright down. So what I do at this point, so I've done alto 1. So now if you go into your parts menu, you can do copy part layout. And I know the Barry is very different than alto 1. And in fact, so are the tenors, but we're going to go ahead and copy this part layout into those other into alto 2, tenor 1, tenor 2. I know you're not seeing the floating menu, but that's what I'm doing. I'm just doing copy part layout. It's pretty easy menu. You'll be able to figure it out without having seen it on mine. So alto 2, and it doesn't copy everything, which is annoying, but it just kind of is what it is. So notice it did copy all of the, all the systems are on the right page and stuff, but it didn't copy any of the appearance things. So we're going to reset note spacing throughout. Then, drag some things around just to make everything look a little bit nicer. We're going to drag this down. This looks okay. We're going to stretch that 2-bar rest out a little bit. We're going to stretch this 2-bar rest out a lot to about there. And this is looking really, really good. Here we're going to drag that down just so that it doesn't collide with the song name at the top. All right. So I would go through and do each part in this way, but I'm going to skip ahead just for time's sake. So let's say we've done all these things. Let's go to a rhythm section part. Let's do piano next, or guitar. Let's do guitar. Why not? Guitar. Okay. So the guitar part obviously has like a lot of different considerations in it. So we're going to start the same way we did before by putting all of our putting all of our rehearsal marks at the beginning of systems. Remember we did that at the beginning of our alto part, and we'll do that pretty quickly. Okay, I think we're actually there already. Okay, good. Then we're going to go through and make the phrasing, the line breaks match the phrasing. So there we go. I don't know why this one is in slightly the wrong place, but that's okay. Then there's this solo break sort of hanging out on its own. Let's see if we can just put it into one system. That's actually okay like that too. We'll spread this out like that. Good. then we're going to put the first and second ending on the same line. Oh, here's an issue, a Sibelius issue. By default, here, let's talk about this one first, because that happens all the time. When you put a chord symbol on beat 1, it's going to collide with the rehearsal mark that you put on the bar line. But Sibelius by default has the chord symbol stand its ground while the rehearsal mark is put on the other side of it, which is ridiculous. So the fastest way that I found to fix this is literally grab the chord symbol and drag it over. So this is just part of what it is to format rhythm parts or solo section parts if we were to look at one of the tenor parts, for instance. Okay. So then the ending bars, it's sort of the same issue. The chord symbols sort of stay where they are. And so we move these over just enough so that they could clear those numbers, and then notice the bars drop down to where they should be. I know that this doesn't look like it's necessarily over the first beat, but that's never been an issue in any band that I've written music for. Like, they'd rather just see it like this than have their brackets like way off in space. Okay, so then this, we have to do that. In this case where we've got 4 bars per line with slashes, it's like a grid. It makes this big grid of measures. So it's really easy to just sort of visually line these bar lines up. We drag this over. Notice that this text like snaps to the right place. Go here, drag that over, drag this over. Good. Okay. Now, page turns are extra important for rhythm section players because they are playing constantly while they're playing. So let me see. We've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 systems on this first page, which I normally wouldn't do, but because it's a rhythm part and it allows for an easy page turn, I'm going to leave it there. So I'm just going to actually move the title down so that it will print in a reasonable place. Then we've got this bass solo that conveniently doesn't really have the guitarist playing during. So we're going to make that our page turn. And then they're not really going to have a page turn between the third and the fourth pages, but because there's such an easy page turn earlier, they should be able to see everything they need to. Like, this last page turn is not a big deal. Then we can take these 6 3/4 bars, put them on one system. Again, our G flat chord is not centering properly, but that's okay. Then we'll take these 5 bars and put them on one system. And there you go. This is a good looking bass part. That's probably all that I would do to it. It looks really good to me now. So let's move on. Let's look at the piano part. So actually what I usually do at this point, because guitar is going to be very similar to piano and bass, I'll start by copying the part layout from the guitar onto the piano and the bass guitar. And the bass guitar is going to be almost done at this point. So let me jump to it. Oh, not quite, because this was a bass feature. Okay, well, let's look at the bass part rather quickly. So the second and third pages look pretty close. I mean, we have to go through and fix all these chord symbols so that they don't collide, right? But that's an easy fix. You just have to actually do it. But this first page, we really want this to be 4 bars per system. So it'll be something like that, solo as written. And then we'll probably put these 3/4 bars up here just to really give them space to see what's going on this line. We got 4, 4, 4, and then 6, and that's okay. Oop. This is colliding with our copyright. So we can move it down. In fact, we've got too many systems on this page. As you can see right now, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 is really too much. So we'll see. But we could do it. So for instance, we could move the title down pretty low and then move this up to about there. And that's about maximum. I prefer not to do that, but sometimes it's the best choice. So we've got our bass solo. Then we move this bass solo continued. There we go. And then last page. Good, yeah, because it's all copied from the guitar part. So I I guess they're going to see the 2-page spread at least. And so this break right here, which is not a bass solo break, it's a moment that the bass doesn't play. So it might make more sense to make that the page break. Then we've got 7 systems on this page. So we can actually take 3 systems off of the first page and put them onto this page. Make it look like that. Then we can actually condense this down a little bit and get some more space at the top. That looks a lot better to me. We need a little more space here. Yeah, that looks much better. Because we still have a good page turn right there. That looks a ton better. So that, I guess, let me see, we move this down a little bit. So that is probably what I would do for this bass part. All right, very good. Let's go back, look at the piano part. Okay, so we've got a bunch of grand staffs in this. Now, because I copied the formatting from the guitar part, it forced too many staves onto the first page. So we'll actually go in here. You can go into layout, I think. Hide empty staves right here. Boop. Okay, so that did a little bit. So yeah, let's, you see, if we do that, I mean, that we're getting closer. That's probably better. Let's see. We're just basically looking for where the page turns can be. So at this point, we could have these being the first 2 pages, then they turn the page to see these subsequent 2 pages. Keeping the bass solo on the bottom makes it a really easy page turn. So we probably want that to be there. Yeah, this is probably getting pretty close already. Drag this down. So, let me see. We could. So sometimes, I guess we don't really need a page turn right there because they can at least have a 2-page spread at the beginning. So let me see. If we do it like that, but we could even include letter B on that page. Yeah, it's looking better. I know this makes the first page look really silly, but that's okay. We could do something where it starts down here. I know it's going to make these guys orange, but that's okay. Do something like that. Yeah, this looks weird with the composer. Maybe if it's like really up high like that, it looks okay. And this G flat is in the wrong place. There we go. Yeah, this, and let's see, let's grab all these guys and do our reset note spacing. Okay, so I know that this first page looks kind of silly, but it really allows us to have reasonable staff spacing on the subsequent pages. These guys can move over. Boop. All right, good. So yeah, this is starting to look really, really clean, which is our goal, right? All right, so the last thing we need to talk about is the drum part. So here we go, drum part. How are we doing on time? We're probably way up there. 23 minutes. 23 minutes! It's way too long. Oh my goodness. No one's going to watch this. Well, they're going to zoom in for the drum parts. I get asked all the time how to format drum parts. All right, so here's how you do it. So it says no fill. Okay, so on this drum part, there are these measures that are an actual written part. I want them to play that hi-hat, bass drum, snare pattern on those bars. So they just kind of have to be how they are. But let's go through and here we'll put our rehearsal marks at the beginning of systems. Good. Okay. Moving back. Okay. So page turns are exceedingly important on the drum part, even more so than on other parts. So, yeah. Anyways, we've got our 3/4 bar. these fills. I wonder if this can all fit in one system and still look okay. Kind of does. So let's just do that. Okay, maybe we do our first page break here. And that looks pretty good. We'll revisit that if we need to. In the meantime, these 3/4 bars and cut time bars and stuff, that's very similar to that first one that I also chose to do this way. Okay, so once we get into it, we'll have one bar of the pattern and then a bunch of repeat bars. And, and then sometimes we'll have a bar of slashes and then a bunch of repeat bars. And that's basically has the same information. Just in this case, I wanted to draw extra attention to the fact that I want them to play that type of groove. Like it's still a contemporary rock, funk groove or whatever you'd call it at that point. So, but in the case of a drum part, you can really put, tons of bars in a system. So like when there are repeat bars like that and they've got little numbers on top, you can probably, let's see. Yeah, if I do that, it's a little dense because this final bar like looks too compressed to really see. But let me see, we could do 8 bars. Yeah, 8 and 8 or 8 and 6 looks just fine. So in fact, in this case, I would probably put slashes here just to like make it clear how many bars we're talking about. And then, maybe here too. Like that's what I should have done. Then we go down here. We can probably put those. Oh yeah, that looks fine. That looks good. Bass solo. Then here's the bass solo continued. Whereas literally nothing for all 12 bars. So then we can definitely put them all in one system. Then we got this sax soli, 12 bars of nothing changing. Then this one's 12 bars with a crescendo under part of it. Still pretty clear what's going on, even without giving it much visible space. Then we've got 6 bars of 3/4. I guess this is our normal thing to do. And then we're going to put these 5 bars all in one line. Now notice that once we've done this, we've got a 3-page drum part, which means they don't have any page turns. So we don't have to worry about where the page turns are because they don't exist. Like they can see this entire spread, no problem. So we'll just drag this down a little bit. Maybe drag this one up a little bit if it'll let me. There we go, just a little bit. And we're done. So that's how I format parts. Now, just to keep this in perspective, that took me 27 minutes, and I did 2 alto parts, a guitar part, and the rhythm section parts. This typically takes me about 2 hours, and I have a lot of experience doing this, but you're going to get that time back at your rehearsals. and people, when they see your parts, are going to know that you are serious. You know what you're doing when they see a well-copied part. So it's well worth your time to do this. Let me go back to, here I am, no more Sibelius. So I can't stress enough that I think it's really important that you format your parts. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it. I know this was a little bit of a longer video, but it's an important thing to show. And please think about hitting subscribe. Smash the like button. God, that I sound like such a tool when I say that. Hit the like button. That's an important thing for algorithms or something. The more people that see this, potentially the fewer horrible parts I'll have to read when I go sit in jazz bands. So everyone, watch this, format parts just like this. If I did something wrong, please let me know. But be kind. I'm kind to you, you be kind to me. And, until next time, goodbye.